Everyone saw Ethan Carter as a saint in the quiet town of Willow Creek, Ohio, where maple trees lined the streets and neighbors waved from their porches. What a devoted man, they'd say, nodding approvingly at the young husband who married Emily Harris, a woman paralyzed from the waist down after a heroic act. At 22, Emily had thrown herself in front of a speeding truck to save Ethan, her high school sweetheart, during his first week at Ohio State University. The accident left her confined to a wheelchair, her dreams of college and motherhood shattered. Yet Ethan, with his charming smile and earnest green eyes, vowed to stand by her. The townsfolk called it love, a story worthy of Willow Creek's small-town pride, where tales of loyalty spread faster than wildfire. Some even said it was the kind of story you'd want to share. Maybe hit that like button, drop a comment about true love, or subscribe to hear more tales from our little corner of Ohio. But behind the faded blue curtains of the Harris family's modest ranch house, the truth was far uglier. Ethan's devotion was a carefully crafted lie, a mask he wore to hide his true intentions. Emily's parents, Tom and Linda Harris, owned a small hardware store that kept Willow Creek's farmers and builders supplied. Their savings, built over decades of frugality, made them one of the town's more comfortable families. Ethan, whose own parents had died in a factory accident when he was 16, saw opportunity in Emily's tragedy. He married her not out of love, but to secure her family's wealth. Worse, he ensured she could never bear children, subtly encouraging doctors to prioritize treatments that left her sterile, all while feigning care. "It's for your health, Em," he'd say, his voice smooth as the polished oak of their dining table, but his eyes glinted with calculation. Confined to a sagging bed in the back room, Emily initially believed his promises. Her heart, still tethered to the boy she'd loved since 10th grade, clung to the hope that he stayed out of duty, maybe even affection. But as the years passed, the cracks in his facade grew impossible to ignore. When Tom and Linda died in a car crash on Route 23, leaving Emily their entire estate, Ethan's mask slipped completely. He brought his widowed sister-in-law, Claire Thompson, into their home. With her sleek blonde hair and designer handbags, Claire was a stark contrast to Emily's frail form, wrapped in tattered blankets that smelled of mildew. Claire's gold necklaces gleamed under the kitchen light as she sipped coffee from Emily's mother's china, while Emily lay in the dark, her body marred by festering sores, surviving on stale bread and lukewarm water. "They're saying we're the perfect couple," Claire would whisper to Ethan, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction as she nestled into his arms on the living room couch. Emily, overhearing from her room, felt her heart splinter. Once so quick to praise Ethan, the townsfolk now gossiped about the poor, paralyzed girl forgotten in her home. Ethan's betrayal deepened when he demanded a divorce, his voice cold as the January wind rattling the windows. "Your parents are gone, Emily. Let's split the inheritance and move on. If you hadn't saved me back then and your family didn't have that money, I'd never have looked at you twice." His words cut deeper than the accident ever could, each syllable a blade twisting in her chest. Claire, lounging in a silk dress that cost more than Emily's medical bills, leaned close to Ethan and murmured, "She's dying anyway, Ethan. Don't rush the divorce. You've been her husband after all. Give her a proper send-off and we'll still get half the assets." They laughed, their voices echoing through the house as they ate meals cooked with Emily's inheritance, slept in her parents' bed, and lived a life of luxury while Emily withered. Her days blurred into a haze of pain and humiliation, her body a prison, her home a mockery. She was less than a stray dog scavenging in Willow Creek's alleys, her existence reduced to a faint shadow in her own story. In the depths of despair, Emily's mind turned to a final act of defiance. Late one night, as Ethan and Claire slept soundly in the main bedroom, Emily dragged herself from her bed, her arms trembling with effort. She poured gasoline from the garage around the house, her hands shaking, but her resolve ironclad. With a single match, she set the world ablaze. Flames roared, swallowing the house, Ethan, Claire, and Emily herself in a fiery reckoning. As the inferno consumed her, she felt a strange peace, a release from the betrayal that had defined her life. The townsfolk would later call it a tragedy, a gripping tale. You might want to hit that like button, comment on what you'd do in Emily's shoes, or subscribe to catch the next chapter of Willow Creek's dramatic sagas. But as the flames faded, something extraordinary happened. Emily's consciousness didn't dissolve into darkness. Instead, a warmth enveloped her, a divine spark that pulsed with the promise of redemption. She couldn't explain it, a whisper of fate perhaps, or a gift from some unseen force granting her a second chance. Her eyes fluttered open and she found herself standing in her family's living room clutching Ethan's college acceptance letter 10 years ago. The air smelled of her mother's lavender candles and the world was hers to rewrite. Emily Harris stood frozen in her family's living room, the crinkled Ohio State University acceptance letter trembling in her hands. The date was June 15th, 2015, the summer after her senior year at Lincoln High. She was 18 again, her body whole, her legs strong beneath her. The divine spark that had brought her back a fleeting warmth she felt in her chest but couldn't explain still lingered, urging her to seize this moment. In her past life, this was the day she'd begged Ethan Carter to propose her heart full of naive hope as she handed him the letter dreaming of a future together. He'd promised to marry her after college, his words sweet but laced with manipulation. Armed with the bitter memories of his betrayal, Emily knew better. This time she would not be his pawn. She glanced around the familiar room, the worn plaid sofa where her dad Tom read his fishing magazines, the oak bookshelf crammed with her mom Linda's romance novels, the faint hum of a lawnmower outside their suburban Willow Creek home. It was all so vivid, so alive, unlike the decayed shell of her past life's existence. Her parents were still here, their laughter not yet silenced by that fatal car crash on Route 23. The weight of her second chance pressed against her chest, a mix of fear and fire. She wouldn't just survive this life, but rewrite it starting with Ethan. Emily tucked the letter into her pocket and marched out the door, her sneakers crunching on the gravel driveway. The summer sun beat down, casting long shadows across Willow Creek's quiet streets, where kids rode bikes and sprinklers hissed on neatly trimmed lawns. Ethan's house, a modest single-story ranch a mile away, was her destination. She remembered every detail of this day from her past life, the way Ethan's green eyes had sparkled with false sincerity, the way he'd leaned against his rusted mailbox, spinning promises of a shared future while planning to bleed her family dry. Not today. When she reached his house, Ethan lounged on the front porch, his lanky frame sprawled across a wicker chair. His dark hair fell over his forehead and he flashed that same charming smile that had once melted her teenage heart. You brought my letter." He called, standing to meet her. His voice was light, but Emily saw the calculation in his gaze, the way his eyes flicked to her hands, expecting her to fawn over him. "We're done, Ethan," she said, her voice steady as steel. The words felt like a blade cutting through years of pain. She held up the letter, then tore it in half, letting the pieces flutter like ash. Ethan's smile froze, his mouth opening in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" he stammered, stepping closer. I just got into Ohio State. Once I graduate, I'll marry you, I swear. You didn't get in this year, so get a job at the hardware store with your dad. It's the smart move for us." His words were a rehearsed script, the same manipulative tone he'd used in her past life to keep her tethered while he chased his ambitions with her family's money. Emily's stomach churned, but she stood taller, her brown eyes locking onto his. "I said we're done. You don't have to marry me. You never wanted to." She turned, ignoring his protests, and walked away, her heart pounding with fear and exhilaration. Ethan called after her. "What did you say? You can't mean that." But she didn't look back. The boy who'd used her sacrifice to climb the social ladder and brought Claire into their home to mock her was no longer her anchor. Emily's steps quickened as she headed home, the summer breeze carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass. She needed to see her parents, to feel their presence after years of grieving their loss in her past life. When she pushed open the front door, Linda was in the kitchen, chopping carrots for a stew, her auburn hair tied back in a messy bun. Tom sat at the dining table, polishing a fishing reel, his glasses perched on his nose. The sight of them alive and whole brought tears to Emily's eyes. She dropped her bag and ran to them, wrapping her arms around Linda. "Emily, what's gotten into you?" Linda laughed, setting down her knife. "Be careful, you'll chop your hand off if you startle me like that." Her tone was warm, but worry creased her brow. Tom looked up, his weathered face softening. "Everything okay, kiddo? Did that Carter boy pull something again? I'll talk to him if he's messing with you." Emily wiped her tears, forcing a smile. "No, Dad, it's all in the past now. I broke up with Ethan." She took a deep breath, the words spilling out. "I'm going to retake the SATs. I want to go to college and make something of myself. This meal's for you two. Let me cook tonight." Linda's eyes widened, and Tom set down his fishing reel, a grin spreading across his face. "College, huh? That's my girl. Forget marriage for now. Education's the ticket." They sat at the table, watching Emily pull ingredients from the fridge: chicken, potatoes, green beans. In her past life, her parents had stretched every penny to care for her, their meals sparse to save for her future. Ethan had squandered it all, leaving them to die in despair. She'd ensure they lived well this time, their laughter filling this house for years. As she stirred the pot, the aroma of roasting chicken filling the air, Emily felt the divine spark pulse again, a reminder of her purpose. She wasn't just saving herself, she was keeping her family future, everything Ethan had stolen. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time she felt alive. Her heart no longer chained to a man who'd never loved her. She'd start studying tomorrow, but tonight she'd savor this moment with the people who mattered most. The scent of roasting chicken filled the Harris family's suburban kitchen in Willow Creek, Ohio, as Emily stirred a pot of mashed potatoes, her hands steady but her heart racing with purpose. The summer evening light streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on the oak table where her parents Tom and Linda Harris sat watching her. In her past life, this kitchen had been scarce, where her parents stretched every meal to save for her care, only for Ethan Carter to squander their savings on his mistress Claire Thompson. Now reborn with a divine spark, she couldn't fully comprehend Emily was determined to rewrite that story. Tonight's meal, roast chicken, green beans, and creamy potatoes, was her first step, a gesture of gratitude for the parents who'd sacrificed everything. She glanced at them, Tom polishing his fishing reel, Linda folding a dish towel, and felt tears prick her eyes. They were alive, their laughter real, not yet silenced by the car crash that had haunted her memories. "Emily, you're acting like you haven't seen us in years," Linda said, her auburn hair catching the light as she stood to help. "Let me take over before you burn the chicken." Her tone was teasing, but worry lingered in her hazel eyes. Emily had come home an hour ago after tearing up Ethan's Ohio State acceptance letter and ending their relationship. The abrupt breakup, coupled with her sudden determination, had left her parents both proud and puzzled. "No mom sit," Emily insisted, gently nudging Linda back to her chair. "This is for you and Dad. I want to honor you tonight." She turned to the stove, blinking back tears. In her past life, she'd been paralyzed after saving Ethan from a truck, her dreams of college replaced by a bed of pain and betrayal. Her parents had endured Ethan's cruelty, his shouting his fists because they feared leaving her alone. Now she'd ensure they lived well, their home filled with joy instead of sorrow. Tom set down his fishing reel, his weathered hands resting on the table. "What's this about, kiddo? You broke up with Ethan and now you're cooking like it's Thanksgiving. Did he hurt you again? I'll march over there and give him a piece of my mind." His voice was gruff, but his eyes softened with concern. Tom, who ran the town's hardware store, had always been Emily's protector, ready to confront anyone who crossed her. Emily set the chicken on the table, its golden skin glistening, and took a deep breath. "It's over with Ethan, Dad. I saw who he really is, someone who'd use me, use us for money. I'm done with him." She paused, her voice steadying. "I'm retaking the SATs. I want to go to college and make something of myself. I want you both to see me succeed, not just survive." Linda's mouth fell open, and Tom's face broke into a wide grin. "College, that's my girl," he said, standing to hug her. "Forget that, Carter boy. Education's the way to go. Your mom and I always knew you had it in you." Linda joined the embrace, her arms warm around Emily. "We're so proud, Emily. Whatever you need, books, tutors, anything, we're here." The words unlocked something in Emily, a flood of relief and guilt. She'd been an average student in her past life, distracted by Ethan and her insecurities about her dark skin and chubby frame. Her parents had poured their savings into Ethan's college fund, hoping he'd marry her only to see him betray them all. Now their unwavering support felt like a lifeline. She sat down, the three digging into the meal, the clink of forks and laughter filling the room. Emily felt whole for the first time in years, real or remembered. Emily shared her plan as they ate and roll in a SAT prep course at Lincoln High, study hard, and aim for a scholarship. She didn't tell them about the divine spark, the inexplicable force that had brought her back 10 years, nor the memories of fire and betrayal that fueled her resolve. Those were burdens she'd carry alone. Instead, she focused on the future, describing colleges she'd researched: Ohio State, Miami University, even out-of-state schools like UCLA. Linda's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Imagine you at UCLA. Emily, we'd visit you, see the ocean." Tom nodded, adding, "And I'd finally have an excuse to buy a new fishing rod for those California streams." The meal stretched late into the evening, the kitchen glowing with warmth and possibility. Emily cleared the plates, her parents' voices a comforting hum as they debated whether she'd major in English or science. In her past life, bedridden and abandoned, she'd read voraciously astronomy politics novels to escape her pain. That knowledge accumulated over a decade was her secret weapon now. She'd use it to ace the SATs not just for herself, but to give her parents the life they deserved. As she washed the dishes, the divine spark pulsed faintly, a reminder that this second chance was hers to shape. But a flicker of worry lingered. Ethan's stunned face as she tore up his letter replayed in her mind. He wasn't done with her, she knew his manipulative nature too well. And Claire was a wild card with her polished exterior and sharp tongue. Emily dried her hands, glancing at her parents, laughing over a shared memory. Whatever came next, she'd protect them. This time, the Harris family would not be broken. The next morning, Willow Creek buzzed with news of Ethan Carter's acceptance to Ohio State University. Neighbors gathered in the front yard of his family's ranch house, a modest clapboard structure with peeling paint to celebrate the town's star student. Balloons bobbed in the summer breeze, and a folding table held lemonade and homemade cookies. Still reeling from her breakup with Ethan the day before, Emily Harris stayed home helping her mom Linda sort inventory lists for the hardware store. But when Tom and Linda overheard gossip about Ethan's college party at the local diner, their pride in Emily's resolve turned to fury. "He's parading around like he didn't break your heart," Tom growled, grabbing his truck keys. "We're going over there." Emily tried to protest, but Linda's eyes blazed with maternal fire. "No one treats our daughter like that and gets away with it," she said, pulling on her cardigan. Reluctantly, Emily followed her sneakers, dragging on the sidewalk as they walked the mile to Ethan's house. Her parents' fierce and unwavering support warmed her heart but also stirred fear. Ethan's charm had fooled everyone in her past life, and his mistress Claire Thompson had a knack for twisting truth. Reborn with memories of their betrayal, Emily braced herself for a fight. The crowd in Ethan's yard swelled, neighbors chatting over the hum of cicadas. Ethan stood on the porch, his dark hair slicked back, basking in congratulations. Claire, his widowed sister-in-law, hovered nearby in a sleek sundress, her blonde hair catching the sunlight. Her gold earrings glinted as she smiled at the men in the crowd, her presence magnetic yet calculated. Emily's stomach twisted. She remembered Claire's luxurious lifestyle in her past life, funded by her parents' savings, while Emily starved. Tom and Linda pushed through the crowd, their faces flushed with anger. "So you're off to college and you dump our—" Emily, Linda shouted, pointing at Ethan. Her voice, usually soft, carried across the yard, silencing the chatter. "You've got no shame, Ethan Carter." Tom stood beside her, patting her back to calm her ragged breathing. "Say something, boy. Can you use our daughter and walk away?" Ethan's charming smile faltered, his green eyes narrowing. He stepped off the porch, his posture stiff. "Emily broke up with me," he snapped loud enough for all to hear. "She said she wasn't good enough for me. What's that got to do with me?" His voice dripped with false innocence, a tone Emily knew too well from her past life when he'd justified bringing Claire into their home while she lay paralyzed. Claire stepped forward, her high heels clicking on the gravel. She dabbed her eyes with a tissue, her voice trembling. "Our family is poor and Emily looks down on us. Ethan's worked so hard and now she's dragging him down." Her tears, perfectly timed, drew sympathetic murmurs from the crowd. Emily's parents stiffened their faces, reddening at the accusation. In her past life, Claire's manipulations had painted Emily as the villain while she and Ethan lived off the Harris family's wealth. Emily pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. She faced Ethan and Claire, her voice clear and firm. "I broke up with Ethan because he and Claire lived together, a man and a woman under one roof. It's inappropriate." She paused, letting the words sink in. "If Ethan moves out and stops supporting Claire, I'd reconsider. But I don't think he will." The crowd gasped, whispers rippling through the yard. In Willow Creek, where family values ran deep, such an arrangement was scandalous. Claire's tears stopped abruptly, her face paling. Ethan's expression flickered with panic, but he recovered quickly, addressing the crowd. "Claire's been like a sister since my parents died. She's cared for me for 3 years, and I won't abandon her. I'm not ungrateful." His voice was earnest, but his hand reached for Claire's, their fingers intertwining. The gesture, too intimate for a brother-in-law, sparked murmurs of disapproval. A neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, couldn't hold back. "Claire, you're young. Why not remarry? Why cling to Ethan?" Another voice chimed in sharper. "I offered to court you, Claire, and you ignored me. Are you and Ethan together?" The crowd's tone shifted, suspicion replacing sympathy. Emily watched Claire's polished facade crack, her lips trembling. Desperate to salvage his image, Ethan pulled Claire closer and declared, "She's my true love. I don't care what you think." The yard fell silent, then erupted in gasps. "That's disgusting," a woman shouted. "Messing around with your sister-in-law," another added. Emily's parents stood stunned. Tom's fists clenched, Linda's hand gripping Emily's arm. In her past life, Ethan had hidden his affair until after her parents' death, but now his brazen admission exposed him to Willow Creek's judgment. Emily stepped forward, shielding her parents. "Let's go," she said softly, guiding them away. "He's not worth it." As they walked home, the summer air was heavy with the scent of honeysuckle, and Emily felt a surge of strength. She'd exposed Ethan's true nature, not with fire, but with truth. Her parents' anger softened into pride as Linda squeezed her hand. "You stood up to him, Emily. We're so proud." Tom nodded, his voice gruff. "You're stronger than he'll ever be." Emily smiled, the divine spark in her chest pulsing faintly. This confrontation was just the beginning. She'd build a future where Ethan's shadow couldn't touch her. Emily Harris walked home from Ethan Carter's house in Willow Creek, Ohio, the summer sun dipping low, casting long shadows across the maple-lined streets. The confrontation with Ethan and his sister-in-law, Claire Thompson, still echoed in her mind, his brazen admission of loving Claire, the crowd's gasps, her parents' fury. In her past life, that love had destroyed her, but now reborn with a divine spark she felt but couldn't explain, Emily was rewriting her story. As she passed the familiar sights of her small town, the diner with its neon sign, the hardware store her parents owned, she reflected on the sacrifices that had led to her past life's tragedy. Those memories, sharp as broken glass, fueled her resolve to protect her family and build a future free of Ethan's shadow. Back in high school at Lincoln High, Emily and Ethan had been inseparable. They'd shared a homeroom since their first year, their desks side by side in a classroom overlooking Willow Creek's football field. Ethan, with his easy smile and green eyes, was the boy every girl noticed, but he'd chosen Emily, or so she thought. When his parents died in a factory explosion during their sophomore year, Ethan's world crumbled. His family's small savings vanished, and he moved in with Claire, his older brother's widow, in their rundown ranch house. Emily, whose heart was bigger than her grades, couldn't bear to see him struggle. She'd slip him half her lunch peanut butter sandwiches, apples from her mom's kitchen, and sneak him money from her allowance to buy school supplies. Her parents, Tom and Linda Harris, saw Ethan's potential and their daughter's devotion. They ran Harris Hardware, a modest but steady business that equipped Willow Creek's farmers and builders. When Ethan's grades earned him a shot at Ohio State, but his pockets were empty, Tom and Linda stepped in. "We'll cover your application fees," son Tom had said, clapping Ethan's shoulder. "Your family now." Linda, ever practical, added, "Promised to take care of Emily." They paid for his SAT prep application fees and even his bus ticket to Columbus for the college tour. Emily, whose grades were average, strong in English but weak in math, didn't mind. She dreamed of marrying Ethan, building a life together, maybe working at the hardware store while he became a professor. That dream was shattered the day Ethan left for college. Emily had waited for him by the side of Route 23, waving as his bus approached. He'd been distracted, smiling dreamily, and didn't see the pickup truck speeding toward him. Emily screamed, lunging forward, shoving him out of the way. The car hit her instead, the impact a thunderclap of pain that stole her breath and her future. When she woke in Willow Creek General, the doctor's words were a death knell. "You're paralyzed from the waist down. I'm sorry, Emily, but you'll never walk again, or have children." Her world narrowed to a hospital bed, then a sagging mattress in her parents' house, her body a prison of pain and shame. To her surprise, Ethan didn't leave. He proposed, his voice soft as he held her hand. "I'll take care of you, Em. You saved my life." Her parents, tears in their eyes, entrusted him with their savings, believing he'd honor their daughter. They moved him into their home, cooking his meals, washing his clothes, treating him like a son. But Ethan's gratitude was a lie. As Emily's health worsened, he grew distant, shouting at Tom when dinner was late, shoving Linda when she asked about his studies. Emily, trapped in her room, heard it all, his curses, her parents' stifled sobs. She begged him to stop, her voice hoarse from crying, but he'd sneer, "You're lucky I'm here at all." Behind her back, Ethan funneled her parents' money to Claire. She'd visit her sleek blonde hair and designer coats, contrasting with Emily's tattered blankets. Claire's polished nails and gold jewelry bought with Harris family funds mocked Emily's suffering. The townsfolk called Claire the professor's wife, praising her elegance as Ethan rose to become a respected scholar. Students visited their home discussing literature and politics, while Emily lay forgotten, her body wasting away. Once she dragged herself to the living room shouting, "I'm his wife." Ethan beat her until she could barely breathe, hissing, "You're nothing compared to her." Her parents endured his cruelty, staying silent to protect her until a car crash claimed their lives, leaving Emily alone with her betrayers. Now, walking home with Tom and Linda, Emily's heart ached with those memories. She glanced at her parents, their faces still flushed from the confrontation. "I'm sorry you had to see that," she said softly. Linda squeezed her hand. "You stood up to him, Emily. That's what matters." Tom nodded, his voice gruff. "He's a fool to lose you. We'll get you to college, kiddo." Their love, unwavering despite the pain Ethan had caused in her past life, strengthened her resolve. She'd use her second chance to honor them, not just with a meal, but with a life they'd be proud of. The summer air in Willow Creek, Ohio, hung heavy with the scent of honeysuckle and the sting of scandal. Ethan Carter's declaration at his college send-off party that Claire Thompson, his sister-in-law, was his true love, had set the town ablaze with gossip. Neighbors who'd gathered in his yard sipping lemonade and celebrating his Ohio State acceptance now stood in stunned silence, their plastic cups forgotten in their hands. Emily Harris, flanked by her parents, Tom and Linda watched the crowd's shock turn to outrage. In her past life, Ethan's affair with Claire had been a secret until after her parents' death, but now reborn with a divine spark guiding her, Emily had exposed their deceit. The confrontation wasn't over, but she felt a surge of triumph as Willow Creek's conservative values clashed with Ethan's brazen betrayal. Mrs. Jenkins, a retired librarian with a sharp tongue, broke the silence. "Claire, you're what, 30? Why are you clinging to your brother-in-law? Time to find your own man." Her voice carried across the yard, drawing nods from the crowd. Mr. Dawson, who owned the local feed store, stepped forward, his face red. "I asked you out last year, Claire, and you brushed me off. Now you're cozying up with Ethan. What's going on here?" The murmurs grew louder, neighbors exchanging glances. In Willow Creek, where church picnics and family barbecues defined community, an affair between a man and his sister-in-law was a sin whispered about in hushed tones. Claire's polished facade cracked, her blue eyes darting nervously. She clutched Ethan's arm, her sundress wrinkling under her grip. "You don't understand," she stammered, her voice no longer soft with fake tears. "Ethan's family. I've cared for him since his brother died." But her words fell flat, her gold earrings glinting like evidence of the Harris family's stolen wealth. In Emily's past life, Claire had lived luxuriously off Tom and Linda's savings, and her designer clothes starkly contrasted with Emily's tattered existence. Now Emily saw Claire's desperation not just for Ethan, but for the financial security his college degree promised. Claire wasn't just a mistress, but a survivor clinging to Ethan to escape her precarious life. Ethan, flushed with panic, tightened his grip on Claire's hand. "She's been there for me since my parents died," he shouted, addressing the crowd. "I won't abandon her, not for anyone. She's my true love, and I don't care what you think." His defiance, meant to salvage his pride, only fueled the fire. A woman in the back, Mrs. Carter, no relation, scoffed loudly. "That's disgusting, Ethan. Messing around with your brother's widow." "In this town," another neighbor asked, "if you loved her, why string Emily along? You lived off her family's money." With his fists clenched, Tom Harris stepped forward, but Emily grabbed his arm. "Dad, let them talk. He's digging his own grave." Pale with anger, Linda nodded, but kept her hand on Emily's shoulder as if anchoring herself. In her past life, Emily's parents had endured Ethan's cruelty in silence, hoping to protect her from abandonment. Now their fury was tempered by pride in Emily's strength. "You're right," Linda whispered. "He's not worth our time." But the crowd wasn't done. A young man, a former classmate of Emily's, shouted, "You used the Harris family, Ethan. Everyone knows they paid for your college apps." And now this, Ethan straightened, brushing off his jeans as if to dismiss the accusations. He declared that "I'm going to Ohio State next month," his voice rising. "I'll make something of myself in Columbus, and you'll all see. If you need a favor someday, look me up. For old time's sake, I'll help." His arrogance, a shadow of the professor he'd become in Emily's past life, silenced some of the crowd. A college graduate could wield influence in a small town like Willow Creek, and no one wanted to burn that bridge entirely. The murmurs softened, some neighbors glancing away, their indignation fading into pragmatism. Emily's heart sank slightly. She'd seen this before, Ethan's charm swaying people despite his flaws. But she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "You can go to college, Ethan, but you can't outrun who you are. I broke up with you because I deserve better. And so does this town." Her words, calm but piercing, reignited the crowd's disapproval. Mrs. Jenkins pointed at Claire. "She's no saint either. Living off the Harris family's dime, dressing like a city girl while Emily's parents worked their fingers to the bone." The accusations flew again, sharper now as neighbors recalled Claire's flashy car and expensive handbags. Claire's face reddened, her grip on Ethan loosening. She'd banked on Ethan's success to lift her out of Willow Creek's modest life, but now the town saw her for what she was, a woman chasing security through betrayal. Ethan, sensing the tide turning, pulled her closer, his eyes darting nervously. "Let's go inside," he muttered, dragging her toward the house. The crowd parted their whispers, following like a swarm of bees. Emily turned to her parents, guiding them away from the chaos. "Let's go home," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. As they walked down the street, the summer air cooling their flushed faces, Tom shook his head. "That boy's got no shame." "But you, Emily, you handled that like a pro." Linda squeezed her hand, her eyes shining with pride. "You showed them who you are. We've got your back always." Emily smiled, the divine spark in her chest pulsing faintly. She'd exposed Ethan's true nature not with violence but with truth. The road to college and a new life lay ahead, and she'd walk it with her parents. Emily Harris walked through the quiet streets of Willow Creek, Ohio, the late June sun warming her face as she headed toward Lincoln High School. The public confrontation with Ethan Carter and his sister-in-law, Claire Thompson, had left the town buzzing, but Emily's focus was elsewhere. Reborn with a divine spark, a faint, warm pulse in her chest, she couldn't explain she was determined to rewrite her future. In her past life, she'd been paralyzed after saving Ethan from a truck, her dreams of college replaced by pain and betrayal. Now at 18, she had a second chance. Her parents, Tom and Linda Harris, had pledged their support for her plan to retake the SATs and attend college, their pride fueling her resolve. Today, she'd first enroll in Lincoln High's SAT prep course for repeat students. The school's red brick facade loomed ahead, its flagpole casting a long shadow across the lawn. Emily's sneakers crunched on the gravel path as memories of her high school years flooded back. She'd been an average student, her C's and D's in math and science contrasting her A's in English. She'd spent classes doodling or staring out the window, distracted by Ethan's charm and insecurities about her dark skin and curvy figure. Her teacher, Mr. Thompson, had often made her stand in the back when she dozed off, earning her the nickname Dreamer among classmates. Now those memories stung, but they also carried a gift. In her past life, bedridden and abandoned, Emily had read voraciously astronomy, politics, algebra to escape her pain. That knowledge, accumulated over a decade, was her secret weapon. She pushed open the school's heavy doors, the scent of chalk and polished wood greeting her. Mr. Thompson's office was down the hall, its door ajar. He sat at his desk, grading papers, his glasses perched on his nose. "Emily Harris," he said, looking up with a mix of surprise and skepticism. "What brings you back? I thought you were set on marrying that Carter boy." His tone was gruff, but his eyes softened, remembering the girl who'd sat in the back row, her potential buried under distraction. "I'm done with Ethan," Emily said, her voice steady. "I want to enroll in the SAT prep course. I'm retaking the test to get into college." She stood taller, her brown eyes meeting his. Mr. Thompson leaned back, adjusting his glasses. "You were a C student, Emily. Decent in English, but math science you barely passed. The prep course requires an entrance exam in a month. It's tough, only the serious make it through." "I'm serious," she replied, her heart pounding. "I've been studying. I won't let you down." She didn't mention the divine spark or the years of reading that gave her an edge. Instead, she let her determination speak. Mr. Thompson studied her, then jotted her name on a form. "All right, Dreamer," he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Go home, prepare. If you're set on this, don't waste it." Emily nodded, bowing slightly before leaving her resolve ironclad. Back home, the Harris family's ranch house was a haven of warmth. Linda was in the kitchen baking blueberry muffins while Tom sorted inventory lists for Harris Hardware. "How'd it go?" Linda asked, brushing flour from her apron. Emily recounted her meeting, her voice bright with hope. "Mr. Thompson's giving me a shot. I've got a month to prep for the exam." Tom grinned, setting down his pencil. "That's our girl. You'll show 'em all." Linda hugged her, whispering, "We knew you could do more than settle for Ethan." That night, Emily set up a study corner in her bedroom, a small desk by the window overlooking Willow Creek's quiet streets. She pulled out library books, algebra textbooks, chemistry guides, SAT prep manuals, and logged into free online courses she'd found on Khan Academy. Her reading had been eclectic in her past life, driven by desperation to fill the empty hours. She'd devoured books on calculus, biology, even astrophysics, piecing together concepts in her mind. Now she organized that knowledge, working through practice problems under the glow of a desk lamp. Her parents checked in, bringing mugs of tea and words of encouragement. "You're burning the midnight oil," Tom said one night, pride in his voice. "Just like your mom, when she balanced the store's books." Emily's days became a rhythm of study and family. She jogged each morning to clear her mind, her body growing stronger, her cheeks less rounded from the stress of studying. Linda noticed slipping extra fruit into her bag. "You're looking healthier, Emily. Keep it up." The divine spark pulsed faintly, a reminder of her purpose. She wasn't just studying for herself, she was honoring her parents who'd sacrificed everything in her past life, only to be betrayed by Ethan. As the exam approached, Emily felt ready, her past life knowledge blending with her new discipline. She'd proved to Mr. Thompson, Willow Creek, and herself that she was more than Ethan's discarded fiancé. 3 weeks later, Willow Creek's summer heat clung to the air, the cicadas' hum, a constant backdrop to the town's quiet rhythm. Emily Harris sat at her desk reviewing SAT math problems, her pencil scratching out equations with newfound confidence. Her parents, Tom and Linda, were at Harris Hardware managing a busy Saturday. In her past life, Emily had been paralyzed, her family's savings squandered by Ethan Carter and his mistress Claire Thompson. Now reborn with a divine spark guiding her, she was carving a new path toward college. The confrontation at Ethan's college send-off party, where he'd declared Claire his true love, had exposed his deceit to Willow Creek. Emily thought she was done with him, but Ethan had other plans. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Ethan standing on her porch, his dark hair disheveled, his green eyes flickering with a mix of charm and desperation. He wore a crisp polo shirt and new sneakers likely bought with the scholarship money he'd bragged about at his party. "Em, can we talk?" he asked, his voice smooth but strained. Behind him, Claire lingered by the mailbox, her sleek sundress and high heels starkly contrasting with the modest neighborhood. Emily's stomach twisted. She knew Claire's elegance was funded by Ethan's schemes, a preview of the luxury they'd flaunted in her past life while she starved. "Get lost, Ethan." Emily set her hand on the door. "I've got nothing to say." Her voice was firm, but Ethan stepped closer, his smile faltering. "Come on, Em, for old time's sake. I'm in a bind." His tone was the same manipulative purr he'd used in her past life, promising marriage while funneling her parents' money to Claire. Emily's resolve hardened. She'd fallen for it once, but not again. Claire sauntered up, her gold earrings glinting. "You're looking better, Emily," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Got someone new already?" Her smile was provocative, a taunt rooted in her belief that Ethan's college degree would secure her future. In Emily's past life, Claire lived like a queen, and her designer clothes were bought with the Harris family's funds. Now Emily sees her for what she is, a woman chasing stability through Ethan's ambition, her confidence tied to his success. "I'm studying for the SATs," Emily said, ignoring Claire's jab. "If you've got something to say, spit it out. I'm busy." Ethan's eyes widened, surprised by her confidence. She'd been a shadow in her past life, broken by his betrayal. Now healthier from jogging and studying, her skin brighter, her frame slimmer, she was a different woman. Ethan's gaze lingered, a flicker of regret crossing his face, but he pressed on. "I'm short on tuition, Em. The scholarship's not enough. Can you lend me some cash for the sake of what we had? I'll pay you back double when I'm a professor." Emily laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the humid air. "Would you give me a dime after what you did? You used my parents' money, lived off their sweat, and now you're begging." Her words echoed the pain of her past life when Ethan had treated Tom and Linda like servants, shouting at them, shoving them while Emily lay helpless. She gripped the doorframe, resisting the urge to slam it. Claire stepped forward, grabbing Emily's wrist. "Don't be so high and mighty," she snapped. "Ethan's going places. You'll regret dumping him when he's successful. He needs that money for us, for his future." Her grip was tight, her eyes blazing with desperation. Claire's life, Emily realized, hinged on Ethan's degree, a ticket out of Willow Creek's modest confines. But Emily shook her off, her voice cold. "His future's not my problem. Neither is yours." Before Ethan could respond, the crunch of gravel announced Tom and Linda's return. They'd been at the store buying apples for a pie and now stood frozen bags in hand, staring at Ethan and Claire. Tom's face reddened, his voice booming. "What the hell are you doing here, Carter?" Linda dropped her bag, apples rolling across the lawn, and pointed at Claire. "You've got some nerve showing up after that stunt at your party." Ethan flinched, but Claire stood her ground, her voice mock-sweet. "We need a little help. Ethan's college is essential, and your family's got money to spare." Her words were a dagger echoing the entitlement she'd shown in Emily's past life. Tom strode forward, furious, but Emily raised a hand. "They're not worth it, Dad." Turning to Ethan, she said, "Leave, or I'll call the sheriff." Her calm strength, honed by weeks of study and self-discovery, silenced him. Unable to hold back, Linda grabbed an apple and hurled it at Ethan. It hit his shoulder, followed by another from Tom, who shouted, "Get off our property!" Ethan grabbed Claire's arm, dragging her away, as more apples flew their retreat, a chaotic scramble. Neighbors peeked from their windows, the scene already fueling Willow Creek's gossip mill. Emily knelt to gather the apples, her parents' anger softening into concern. "You okay, kiddo?" Tom asked, his voice gentler now. "I'm fine," Emily said, smiling. "They won't last long. Bad people get what's coming." Linda hugged her, whispering, "You're stronger than both of them." As they returned inside, the divine spark pulsed in Emily's chest, a reminder of her purpose. The SAT prep exam was days away, and she'd focus on that, not Ethan's desperation. Her parents' pride and fierce love were all she needed to keep going. The early August sun blazed over Willow Creek, Ohio, casting a golden glow across the red brick facade of Lincoln High School. Emily Harris stood outside the school's gymnasium, her heart pounding as she clutched a pencil and a water bottle, ready to take the entrance exam for the SAT prep course. Weeks of relentless study, fueled by the divine spark that had granted her this second chance, had transformed her. In her past life, she'd been a mediocre student, paralyzed after saving Ethan Carter from a truck, her dreams buried under his betrayal. Now at 18, she was rewriting her fate, determined to secure a spot in the prep course and a path to college. Her parents, Tom and Linda Harris, waited at home, their pride and her resolve a quiet anchor. As she stepped inside, the cool air of the gym steadied her nerves, and she vowed to honor them with her success. Inside, rows of desks held other repeat students, their faces a mix of anxiety and determination. Emily took her seat, her mind sharp with knowledge she'd accumulated in her past life. Bedridden for years, she'd read voraciously algebra texts, chemistry guides, even astrophysics journals to escape her pain. She'd supplemented that foundation with weeks of focused preparation, using Khan Academy videos and library books to master SAT-level math and science subjects she'd once failed. Her English skills, always her strength, were honed by hours of practice with essays. The divine spark pulsed faintly in her chest, a reminder of her purpose to rise above Ethan's shadow and build a future for her family. The exam began, and Emily's pencil flew across the pages. Math problems, quadratic equations, geometry proofs unraveled easily, her past life study clarifying the logic. Science questions on chemical reactions and physics felt like puzzles she'd already solved. In the reading section, she analyzed passages precisely, and her years of reading novels and essays gave her an edge. She finished early, turning in her paper with a quiet confidence that startled even herself. Mr. Thompson, her old teacher, raised an eyebrow as he collected it. "Done already, dreamer?" he asked, using her old nickname. Emily smiled. "Yes, sir. Grade it now if you want." He nodded, skeptical but curious, and took her test to his desk. The school's front lawn buzzed with activity as Emily waited outside, sipping water under a shady oak. Today was also Lincoln High's ceremony to honor students accepted to college, and Ethan Carter, the town's star, was the keynote speaker. Emily spotted him on a makeshift stage, his dark hair slicked back, his voice carrying over the crowd of neighbors and classmates. He said, "Willow Creek gave me this chance," his charm masking the arrogance she knew too well. "I'll make you proud at Ohio State." The crowd applauded, but Emily stayed in the shade, unnoticed, focusing on her own path. Minutes later, Mr. Thompson emerged, his face lit with astonishment. "Emily Harris," he called, waving her test papers. Perfect scores in math and English, and only 3 points lost in reading. Best in the room. The crowd turned, murmurs rippling through the lawn. Emily's heart soared. She'd done it. Her past life knowledge combined with her new discipline had paid off. Mr. Thompson handed her the papers, his skepticism replaced by pride. "You're in the prep course. Don't let this go to your head, but well done." Ethan, still on stage, spotted her, his smile faltering. He stepped down, pushing through the crowd, and snatched the papers from her hand. "Perfect scores," he muttered, his green eyes wide with disbelief. "It's been a month, Emily. You were terrible at math. Did you cheat?" "By the answers?" His voice was loud, drawing curious glances. Ethan had mocked her attempts to learn in her past life, sneering as she read books in her hospital bed. Now his accusation stung, but she stood her ground. Mr. Thompson's face darkened. I chose these questions myself, Carter. Are you saying I leaked them? His tone was sharp, his authority silencing the crowd. Ethan, realizing his mistake, softened his voice, forcing a smile. No, sir, just surprised. Let's hope you're not fooling yourself, Emily. He returned the papers, his charm a thin veil over his envy. The crowd whispered, some noting Emily's transformation, her slimmer frame, brighter skin, and newfound confidence. She's looking good, a classmate murmured. Better than Claire, even. Emily ignored the chatter, focusing on Mr. Thompson's words. Keep this up, Emily. You could go far. She nodded, clutching her test papers like a trophy. Her parents, who'd arrived to pick her up, rushed over, their faces beaming. Perfect scores, Linda gasped, hugging her. Tom clapped her shoulder, his voice gruff with pride. Told you, kiddo. You're unstoppable. The divine spark pulsed, affirming her path. Ethan's speech faded into the background as Emily walked away with her parents. Her triumph was a quiet but powerful rebuke to his arrogance. She was no longer the girl he'd used, she was a scholar in the making. The banquet hall in Willow Creek, Ohio, glowed with string lights and the hum of celebration. Ethan Carter's engagement party to Claire Thompson and his college send-off were the town's summer events. Neighbors, classmates, and teachers filled the room, toasting the star student headed to Ohio State. Emily Harris, now a month into her transformation, stood at the edge of the crowd, her simple navy dress accentuating her slimmer figure and radiant skin. Reborn with a divine spark, she'd aced the SAT prep course entrance exam, her perfect scores a testament to her past life knowledge and new discipline. Her parents, Tom and Linda, had urged her to skip the party, but Emily chose to attend not to cause trouble, but to show Ethan and herself that she was no longer his victim. Inside tables were laden with potluck dishes, casseroles, pies, and lemonade, reflecting Willow Creek's community spirit. Ethan stood with Claire, his arm around her waist, her sleek blonde hair and diamond necklace drawing admiring glances. Claire's elegance, Emily knew, was funded by Ethan's scholarship money, a shadow of the luxury she'd flaunted in Emily's past life, using Harris family funds. The crowd toasted Ethan's future, but whispers followed Emily as she found a seat. She's the one who dumped him, a neighbor said. Looks like a new person now. Another added, shame she didn't get into college. Not a match for Ethan. Emily ignored them, her focus on the life she was building, her parents' pride, her steadfast anchor. Claire, spotting Emily, approached with a glass of wine, her smile sharp. She said a toast to new beginnings, her voice laced with mockery. Emily raised her water glass, her expression calm. She saw Claire's desperation beneath the polish, a woman banking on Ethan's degree to escape Willow Creek's modest life. Ethan, joining them, froze as his eyes met Emily's. Her transformation, healthier, confident, no longer the chubby, insecure girl he'd known, unsettled him. Suddenly, his face paled, his hands trembling. Fragmented images flashed in his mind, a karmic echo of his past life. Emily crawling toward him in a burning house, flames engulfing him and Claire, her smile hauntingly serene. The visions, triggered by guilt buried deep in his soul, felt like a warning from fate. Stay away, Ethan screamed, stumbling back. She's a ghost! She's here for revenge! The crowd gasped, glasses clinking as people turned. Ethan's eyes were wild, his voice hysterical. It's her fault, Claire. You made me lie to her. He shoved Claire forward, his hands shaking. Take her. She taught me to use. Emily. Claire's face drained of color, her wine glass slipping to the floor. Ethan, stop, she shouted, but he slapped her twice, his voice breaking. Will this satisfy you, Emily? Will you let me go? The hall erupted in chaos. Guests whispered, some backing away, others pulling out phones to record. He's lost it, a teacher muttered. What's he talking about? Emily stood still, her heart steady despite the madness. She knew the truth. Ethan's visions were a glimpse of their past life, where her final act of despair had burned them all. The divine spark in her chest pulsed, as if affirming her role in his unraveling. She hadn't cursed him, his guilt had. Claire, her cheek red from Ethan's slap, turned to Emily, her eyes pleading. What did you do to him? She whispered, fear replacing her smugness. Nothing, Emily said, her voice calm. He's doing this to himself. She turned to leave the crowd, parting for her. Tom and Linda, who'd arrived to check on her, rushed to her side. Let's get out of here, Tom said, his arm around her. Linda's eyes blazed with protective fury. He's getting what he deserves, she whispered. As they left, the hall buzzed with rumors. Some said Emily had cursed Ethan, others that his guilt had driven him mad. A classmate muttered, She's like a phoenix rising from nothing, and him, he's falling apart. Outside, the summer night was cool, the stars bright above Willow Creek. Emily walked with her parents, their presence a shield against the chaos behind her. Linda said you didn't need to come tonight, squeezing her hand. But I'm glad you did. You showed them who you are. Tom nodded, his voice gruff. He'll never touch you again, kiddo. Emily smiled, the divine spark warm in her chest. Ethan's collapse was his own doing, a karmic reckoning for the pain he'd caused. She focused on the SAT prep course, her parents, and the future she was building, one where she'd soar, not burn. The late August air in Willow Creek, Ohio, carried the first hints of autumn, a crisp edge mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass. Emily Harris stepped into Lincoln High School's classroom, her backpack heavy with SAT prep books, her heart light with purpose. Weeks ago, she'd aced the entrance exam for the school's repeat year SAT prep course, and her perfect scores in math and English were a testament to the knowledge she'd gained in her past life and her relentless study. Reborn with a divine spark, a warm pulse she felt but couldn't explain, Emily was rewriting her future free from Ethan Carter's betrayal. Her parents, Tom and Linda Harris, had cheered her triumph, their pride a beacon as she began classes. Ethan's collapse at his engagement party, haunted by visions of their past life's fiery end, had cemented her resolve. Today, she'd start anew, building a life where no one could dim her light. The classroom buzzed with repeat students. Some were nervous and others resigned. Emily found her old desk by the window, the familiar view of the football field stirring memories of her distracted high school years. She'd been a dreamer then, doodling instead of studying, her heart tied to Ethan. Now she was different. Slimmer, brighter, her confidence forged by weeks of jogging and late-night study sessions. As she unpacked her books, a tall boy with sandy hair and a lopsided grin slid into the desk beside her. "Hey, I'm Chase Bennett," he said, his voice warm. "You're Emily, the one who got perfect scores." His hazel eyes sparkled with curiosity, and two dimples appeared when he smiled. Emily nodded, a bit shy. "Yeah, that's me." Chase leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Heard you shut down that Carter guy at his party. Respect." His grin widened, and Emily laughed, surprised by his easy warmth. Chase, she learned, was repeating his senior year to boost his SAT scores for a shot at Ohio University. His dad was a sheriff's deputy, his mom a nurse, and his laid-back demeanor hid a determination to escape Willow Creek's small-town limits. "I'm not the smartest," he admitted, "but I'm stubborn. And my dad says I'm good in a scrap if anyone messes with my friends." Their teacher, Mr. Thompson, began the lesson, diving into quadratic equations. Emily focused, her past life knowledge of algebra blended with her recent Khan Academy practice. Chase, struggling with a problem, peeked at her notes. "How do you make this look easy?" he whispered, his dimples flashing. Emily smiled, offering to explain after class. Their banter eased her nerves, starkly contrasting Ethan's manipulative charm. Chase's sincerity felt like a fresh start, a reminder that not all connections were tainted by betrayal. As the school day ended, Emily lingered at the entrance, checking her phone for a text from Linda. She'd been cautious since Ethan's breakdown, mindful of the accident that had paralyzed her in her past life. A sudden crash jolted her. A flower pot fell from a second-story window, shattering on the sidewalk inches from her feet. Before she could react, Chase lunged, shoving her into a nearby bush. "Watch out!" he shouted, his voice sharp with panic. He helped her, brushing leaves from her hair, then glared at the building. "Who the hell drops a flower pot? That's dangerous." No one answered, the windows silent, but Emily's heart raced. The near miss echoed her past life accident, but Chase's quick action had saved her. "You okay?" he asked, his hazel eyes searching hers. "That was too close." Emily nodded, steadying her breath. "Thanks, Chase. You're quick," he grinned sheepishly. "Dad's a cop, remember? Gotta have reflexes. Plus, I'm not letting the new math genius get squashed on my watch." His humor broke the tension, and Emily laughed, grateful for his presence. "How about I walk you home?" he offered, "just to be safe. Willow Creek's got too many rogue flower pots." She agreed, touched by his protectiveness. They walked through the town's quiet streets, passing the diner and Harris Hardware. Chase shared stories of his dad's sheriff work, chasing shoplifters, breaking up bar fights, and his dreams of studying criminal justice. He said, "I'm not book smart like you, but want to help people, maybe be a cop like Dad." Emily listened, her past life isolation making his openness a gift. At her doorstep, she promised, "Tomorrow, I'll bring Mom's homemade cinnamon rolls to thank you." Chase's eyes lit up. With icing, you're my new best friend. Inside, Tom and Linda greeted her with warm hugs. Heard about that flower pot, Linda said, worry creasing her brow. You're okay, Emily nodded, recounting Chase's save. Tom grinned. Sounds like a good kid. You focus on those SATs, though. We're rooting for you. Their support, unwavering as ever, warmed her. As she settled into her study corner, the divine spark pulsed, affirming her new path. Chase's friendship, her parents' love, and her own strength were building a future Ethan could never touch. Summer faded into June of the following year, and Willow Creek, Ohio buzzed with the energy of college entrance exam season. Emily Harris stood outside Lincoln High School's test center, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her heart steady with confidence. A year of SAT prep fueled by her past life knowledge and relentless study had transformed her. In her past life, she'd been paralyzed after saving Ethan Carter, her dreams crushed by his betrayal with Claire Thompson. Now reborn with a divine spark, Emily had aced the prep course entrance exam and built a new life with her parents Tom and Linda and her friend Chase Bennett. Ethan's collapse at his engagement party, haunted by karmic visions of their past life's fiery end, was a distant memory. Today she'd take the SATs to secure her future. The test center was packed with students and parents, the air thick with nervous chatter. Tom and Linda stood by Emily, their faces glowing with pride. You've got this, kiddo, Tom said, handing her a water bottle. Linda tucked a strand of Emily's hair behind her ear. We'll be waiting right here. Show 'em what you're made of. Their support, a constant through her rebirth, grounded her. Thanks to Emily's tutoring, Chase, now a top student, joined them, his dimples flashing. After this, we're getting ice cream, right? He teased, ruffling her hair. Emily laughed, swatting his hand. Only if you stop messing up my hair. Inside, Emily breezed through the SATs, her pencil dancing across math problems, science questions, and reading passages. Her past life reading calculus, biology, literature blended seamlessly with her year of Khan Academy and library study. She finished early, her confidence unshaken. Weeks later, the results arrived. Emily was Franklin County's top female scorer, her near-perfect score earning her scholarship offers from Ohio State and beyond. Chase, boosted by her help, scored high enough for Ohio University. Tom and Linda threw a small celebration at the hardware store, their pride evident in every hug. You're our star, Linda whispered, tears in her eyes. News of Ethan trickled through Willow Creek's gossip mill, though Emily no longer sought it. After his breakdown, he'd hidden at home, paranoid, mumbling about flames and ghosts, visions of the fire Emily had set in her past life, a karmic echo of his guilt. Determined to attend Ohio State, he'd boarded a bus to Columbus, but fate intervened. A truck swerved on Route 23, hitting him as he crossed the street. He woke in the hospital, paralyzed from the waist down, mirroring Emily's past life fate. Claire, his fiancée, abandoned him, squandering their scholarship money on designer clothes. Alone, penniless, Ethan died quietly in his rented room, discovered days later by a cousin. Claire, relying on her looks, took a job at a Columbus nightclub only to be killed by a jealous rival's knife outside her apartment. Emily heard the news from classmates at school, their voices hushed with pity and scorn. That Claire was cursed, one said. Everyone around her ended up doomed. Emily shook her head, the irony sharp. Claire had once called her cursed in her past life, blaming her for her parents' deaths. Now the label had turned on her. Chase, sitting beside her, handed her a green popsicle. What are you thinking about? He asked, his dimples showing. Just someone else's story, Emily said, smiling. It's got nothing to do with me anymore. They walked home joking about their upcoming college plans. Chase, now set on criminal justice, teased, You'll be some fancy scholar and I'll be busting bad guys. Don't forget me when you're famous. Emily laughed, shoving him playfully. At her doorstep, she paused, the divine spark pulsing warmly. Her parents greeted her inside Linda with a plate of homemade cookies, Tom with a fishing magazine he swore she'd love. You're still growing, Linda said, fussing over her slimmer frame. Tom grinned. She's perfect, Lynn, our college girl. As Emily sat with them, the weight of her past life lifted entirely. Thanks to Chase's quick save from the falling flower pot, she'd avoided the accident that had paralyzed her. Her parents, alive and vibrant, would never face Ethan's cruelty or that fatal crash. Her SAT triumph opened doors to a future she'd once only dreamed of. Chase, her unexpected ally, had become a friend who saw her strength, not her scars. The karmic visions that haunted Ethan were his own reckoning, not hers. She'd burned her past to ash and risen anew, her life now a canvas of hope, painted with the love of her family and the promise of tomorrow.